everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today's video will be my January and February wrap up. I just quickly want to say that I won't have a TV and movie wrap up for January and February because I literally just rewatched What We Do in the Shadows. So I have nothing new to talk about. I'll just wait until April, probably at the end of April, to do a TV and movie wrap up. In my February reading plans video, I did mention how I would be combining my reading wrap-ups for the year. I just feel like my reading has really changed and I don't read that many books per month anymore, and so it just kind of makes more sense for me to combine wrap-ups. So I'm going to be doing bi-monthly wrap-ups. I mean, hopefully there'll be like 1 or 2 months where I read 10 or more books in a month, and then I'll just do a wrap-up for that specific month. But the plan is to do bi-monthly wrap-ups for this year. I did read a total of 12 books in the last 2 months. I read 8 in January and 4 in February. So I started off the year with Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez, I think it's Jimenez. I think I've been saying it wrong this entire time. This I gave 4 out of 5 stars. This follows Alexis, who gets into, she doesn't really get into a car accident, but she kind of like hits the ditch in this small town, and our male character Daniel is kind of the one that saves her, and they end up having a one-night stand, but they can't stop thinking about each other and they decide to have this long-distance relationship, but they are from 2 different worlds. Obviously, Alexis is a doctor and she lives in the big city, and Daniel is 10 years younger than her and he lives in this small town and kind of has this bed and breakfast, I think. I really did enjoy this. I will say I don't particularly love age gap romances where the female character is older. However, I did enjoy this one. I really liked the small town aspect. I really liked Alexis and Daniel together. I liked their romance. I liked the small town vibes. I felt so bad for Alexis and her journey, I guess, because she had a very controlling, manipulative family. I can't remember if he was her ex-husband or just her ex-boyfriend, but he was also awful. I also felt so sorry for Daniel because he had no idea what he was getting himself into with Alexis and all of her issues, I guess. But overall, I really enjoyed this, and I can't wait to read about Alexis's friend. I believe that Abby is releasing that book next, so I'm excited about that. Then I read The Do-Over by Lynn Painter. This I gave 3 out of 5 stars. This follows Emily, who essentially has to relive Valentine's Day over and over again until she gets it right. She is having issues with her boyfriends, and then she meets Nick, who is very different than her boyfriend, and she keeps running into him, and she just has to relive this day till she learns her lesson, really. I liked this. I did not love it as much as Better Than the Movies. I'm not really a fan of books that follow kind of like a time loop. It just feels very, very repetitive, and I am glad that this book is short because I feel like if it was any longer, it just would have been way too boring. I think my main issue with this book was I just didn't love the plot, and the characters were all right, but I wasn't in love with them. I just thought they were kind of basic characters. I had higher hopes for this just because I loved Better Than the Movies, but it sadly just doesn't compare, but I don't feel like you should compare it to that either. And then I basically binged a series. I started reading the Darkverse series by Rue Nix. So I read The Predator, which I gave 3 out of 5 stars. I wasn't super in love with this. I had actually started it a really, really long time ago. I never got around to finishing it because I was just kind of bored. Like, it is third person, which I'm not super in love with. This follows Miranda, who is the daughter of a mob boss, and she believes that Tristan, a member of a rival family, stole a computer program from her that could essentially put their families at war. So she tries to break into his house and find what he stole, but she discovers there are so many more secrets to unfold, and her and Tristan both want to kill each other. I wasn't in love with the characters or the romance. I just felt like there was a little bit of a lack of chemistry or something. I just wasn't super in love with this specific couple. I was intrigued to continue the series. Obviously, I did read the rest of them. I also don't feel like a lot happened in this first book. I feel like it was a really good setup for the series, and I feel like the series did get better. So I appreciate this book, but I just wasn't as in love with it as I thought I would be, considering everybody is obsessed with this series. I did read the second book, which is Reaper, which I also gave 3 out of 5 stars. This actually continues Moranna and Tristan's story. It just picks up after the first book, and Moranna and Tristan continue to hunt for the truth on things. Didn't love this one either, but it was better. I will say from the second book, it did grip me enough that I was like, yes, I want to continue the series. I want to keep going with it. There were some shocking things that happened in this book. I really loved when they went to Tristan's home and met Dante's father and everything. That was just wild. I loved all of that. I definitely liked the plot more in this book than the first book. I mean, not only for this book, but for the whole series. There are so many plot twists and things that I do not see coming at all, which is so shocking and so well done. I feel like Rue Nix really sets up this great mystery in this series, and you really don't know what to expect next. Like, sometimes you think you know what's happening and then you're completely wrong, and it's so surprising and wonderful. I will say Rue Nix definitely has a talent for storytelling and for just having this mysterious plot and characters and atmosphere. I really do enjoy that about this series. I did go ahead and read The Emperor, which is the third book. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. I really liked this one. I think this might be my favorite in the series. This follows Dante, who is the heir to this mob family, and he ends up falling in love with Amara, who is the daughter of the head housekeeper. However, their love story is not so simple. Amara ends up having a very traumatic life, and she kind of loses herself. But Dante is there to help her and get revenge, and they definitely have a very beautiful love story. This one, I will say, is definitely a lot darker than the first two. This one deals more with violence and abuse, sexual abuse. It's definitely darker, and Rue Nix didn't shy away from writing things, very heavy things. I feel like for a lot of dark romances that I've read in the past, authors tend to like kind of insinuate that something bad happened to the female character, but in this book we actually see it and read it, and it's very horrific. And I feel like also in a lot of dark romances or mafia romances, we see like the male character save the female character before something bad happens, but that obviously is not in this series, at least. And I know that's a weird thing to appreciate, but I just think it makes the dark romance more realistic because there is bad things that happen. Even though I did love this, I still, wasn't a huge fan of the writing. I will say Rue Nix does have a talent for writing though. I do appreciate that she can write, because I did read another mafia series after this and it could not compare at all. I found the writing so weak in that other series compared to this, so I did appreciate the writing. I appreciated Amara's development as a character and how she grew strong, and even after everything that she went through, she decided to take that experience and turn it into something good and to help other people. I loved Dante. He was always so protective and sweet with Amara, and he is honestly just a gentleman. He takes care of every woman in his life, and I love that. And then we got to The Finisher, which is the fourth book. This one I did give 3 out of 5 stars. I'm kind of conflicted on my rating with this one because I did like it, but it felt so different from the rest of the series. I think because we're following a little bit of a different character now, and he's not directly involved with Dante and Tristan and that mafia family. This follows Alpha, who kind of grew up on the streets, and he has now made a name for himself. He's very successful. And then we have Zephyr, who is living her normal life, but she encounters Alpha, and they sort of have this, I guess, mysterious past together, but unfortunately Alpha does not remember, and Zephyr decides to have a very intriguing proposition for Alpha that he can't refuse. I felt like this one kind of dragged a little bit. I was a little frustrated with how long it took Alpha to fall in love with Zephyr. I did like the trope. It is marriage of convenience. I did like how opposite the characters were. It was definitely Grumpy Sunshine. I guess maybe I should change my rating to 4-star, because now that I'm thinking about it, I did really like this. Also, there were so many wild plot twists in here. Absolutely loved that. And also, I kind of cried towards the end. I did end up taking a little break from this series, and I read By Virtue I Fall by Cora Riley. This is the third book in the Sins of the Father series, and this I gave 1 star. This follows Anna, who is the daughter of a Chicago mob boss. She is accepted into this fashion school. However, she needs a bodyguard, and her bodyguard, Santino, does not want to go with her. He has resented being Anna's bodyguard for years because Anna is in love with him and she always tries to tempt him. But now that they're alone in Paris, will Santino continue to resist Anna or finally give in? I know my 1-star rating seems kind of harsh, but I didn't like anything about this book. There was nothing that I liked about it. Didn't like the plot, didn't like the characters. I didn't even like Dante and Valentina's scenes, who I love. I love their book. They're like my second favorite couple in the Born in Blood series, and I didn't like them in this book. I think mainly Anna just really annoyed me. She would act tough, and then when something happened, she would just cry, and I just felt like the facade was so annoying. I hated the way Santino was. I feel like he changed literally in an instant the way he felt about Anna. It was like he hated her, he wanted nothing to do with her, and then a minute later he was so in love with her and he didn't want to share her with anybody. I just feel like the characters weren't properly developed, nor was the romance, and I had just obviously binged most of the Darkverse series, and that series was so developed and detailed, and it was just so different than this series and this book, and it just made me realize how much this book wasn't good. So I gave it 1 star. Then I went back and read the 5th book in the Darkverse series, which is The Annihilator. This one I did give 3 out of 5 stars. I feel like I don't really want to say like who this is about, but let's just say this is the Shadow Man's story, or the beginning of his story really, which are kind of hinted at who this like Shadow Man is in the entire series, and this is essentially his book. There were things I liked about it, but then there were things I didn't like about it. Honestly, I feel like it was kind of slow, but I understand we were setting up both of these characters and their backstory and like who they were. I did like both characters. I just think I wanted more of a romance. This one was just kind of more setting up the characters, like I said, and kind of setting up for the last book, which I don't think there's a date for, but I'm very excited for that one. I feel like that one will probably have more romance between these two characters. I felt so awful for a female character. She went through so much, and I cannot wait for her happy ending. I can't wait for the last book. I'm just very excited to see all of these characters hopefully be happy and get all of their official happy endings. And again, also so many twists and turns in this 5th book. So many things were shocking that I did not see coming, and it's so crazy how each book is so connected to the other and all the characters are so connected. It's just, I feel like Rue Nix definitely has created such a masterpiece with this series. Even though I haven't really rated each book really high, I still feel like it's so well done. It's so well done. I will say each book gets darker and darker though, so if you do have triggers, this series probably isn't for you. It is pretty heavy and it has a lot of descriptions of severe abuse and sexual abuse and rape and all of that. So it's pretty heavy, but so well written, and I have really grown to love the characters in the world and the whole setup, really. I am very, very excited for the next book. And then I read By Fate I Conquer by Cora Riley. This is the 4th book in the Sins of the Father series, and this one I gave 4 out of 5 stars. This one I actually really liked and I was very surprised by. It's the only book in the series that I actually have liked. This follows Amo and Greta, who are from rival families. We have Greta, who is the daughter of Remo Falcone, and Emma, who is the son of Luca Vitiello. This literally had elements of Twisted Emotions and Twisted Pride, and I just loved that. We had a very innocent, sheltered, somewhat female character, and then we had this male character who was pretty dark, pretty aggressive, but also very sweet and caring. I liked seeing both families and how both families reacted to everything that went down. It was very action-packed, and I kind of liked how there was like this forbidden secret romance. I just really enjoyed this, and I was actually very surprised that I liked it. Then I read The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. This I gave 4 out of 5 stars. I do have a full reading vlog dedicated to this book. It was my Valentine's Day vlog, so if you want to know a full kind of in-depth review on this, I will link that video down below. This just follows Hannah, who becomes Jack's bodyguard. Jack is a actor who has kind of been hiding out for a couple of years, but his mother is sick and he wants to go home to spend time with her, but he has had like a stalker in the past, so Hannah has to essentially go with Jack, and they pretend that they're dating and that they're in a relationship, but Hannah is his bodyguard. I really enjoyed this. It did take me, I would say, maybe like 50-ish pages to really get into it and really vibe with the characters and the story. I did like Jack and Hannah. I felt like they had some awesome banter, and they had some very cute, heartfelt moments, and I really appreciated Hannah's development as a character and her growth. This book also deals with grief and death, I guess like family issues, family relationships a lot, and I feel like that was really well done, and I definitely teared up a couple of moments in this book. It was a very cute, heartfelt, funny, emotional romance. I really enjoyed it. And then the last 2 books that I read a part of a series, I actually haven't hauled these books yet, but I read Longshot by Kennedy Ryan. This is the first book in the Hoops trilogy. This I gave 4 out of 5 stars. This follows August, who is a NBA player, and Iris, who is dating his rival, I guess. But Iris and August have shared these very heartfelt, deep moments over the course of years, and they just seem to always drift together, but Iris is dealing with a lot in her life. Essentially, they want to be together, but there are things that are kind of stopping them from being together. Obviously, trigger warnings for abuse, sexual abuse, like intense manipulation, and like gaslighting, and like heavy and traumatic events. I was so shocked at how descriptive this book was. Like, I just kind of thought we were being insinuated at things that happened, or we would see like 1 or 2 scenes, but there was a lot of heavy detail with everything that happened to Iris, and it was just so heartbreaking. I sobbed while reading this book. I cried so much because I just felt so awful for Iris, and she deserved everything good in her life. She really survived, and I loved August. He was always just willing to be there for her and to help her in any way, and he truly like never gave up on her, which I loved. I loved their relationship. I wasn't completely sold on their romance, to be honest. I think that's the only thing I didn't love about this book, was I just wasn't super into their romance, but I obviously was reading for them, and I'm so happy I finally read this. I've been putting this off for years, so I am very happy I finally read it. I think I've had this on my TBR since like 2018, so I'm glad I read it and I loved it. And then the last book that I read in the last 2 months was Blockshot by Kennedy Ryan. This is the second book in the Hoops series. This one I gave 3 out of 5 stars. I didn't love this one as much as Longshot. This follows Jared, who is August's brother. He is a sports agent, and his romance is with Banner, who is also a sports agent. They're both kind of competing, but they actually knew each other back in college, and they had this friendship that kind of developed into something more, but one night everything fell apart. I wasn't a huge fan of the romance, to be honest. I wasn't that in love with Jared and Banner together. I don't know why I didn't love Jared. He had all of the qualities that I love in male characters. He was very possessive. He fought for Banner so much. Like, he just wanted her. He would stop at nothing to have her. Like, he just literally would bulldoze through everything to get to her. And normally I would love that in a male character, but I don't know. I think it was just kind of off with how much he didn't really care about other people at all. He literally just cared about Banner and like his brother. And that was like the extent of people that he truly cared about. I guess maybe Iris, but he also had this like attitude that like he didn't care about people, he didn't feel feelings, all that kind of jazz, which I think kind of bothered me. I do feel kind of bad for Banner. I feel like she went through a lot. She was trying to be a good person about everything, and I just felt so bad for her. But I don't know. I did love aspects of this book, but also at the same time, I just wasn't completely sold on the romance. I'm very glad that I'm continuing the series. I do have plans to read the last book in March. So those are all the 12 books that I read in the first 2 months of the year. Let me know if you have read any of the books that I talked about and what you think about them, and let me know what you have been reading recently. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to give this video a like, subscribe, follow me on all my other social media, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.